everyone, and welcome to the Fit Addicts. Today we're joined with Wendy Crabbe from Weight Loss for Wendy. Hi, Wendy. How are you doing today?
Great. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you, Wendy. We're really looking forward to this interview today. We have lots of questions for you.
Great.
Let's go ahead and get started. And if you could tell us a little bit about your background and area of expertise, please.
Sure. I am a life and weight loss coach, and I personally have lost 55 pounds over 1 year with coaching and kept 45 pounds off for over 2.5 years. But I'm also a oncology nurse practitioner, still practicing 4 days a week. So I still do that and do my coaching program.
Excellent, excellent. All right, so let me start with this. What is the biggest challenge women over 50 have when they want to lose weight?
Great question. Very common question. So the biggest challenge is really our diet mentality. It's because what happens is we go on a diet, we really want to lose weight. We stick with it for maybe 2 weeks, but we do a diet that is so restrictive and we're starving all the time. And then we feel deprived. And who can sustain that torture for longer than a few weeks? Not too many people. So we get in this cycle over and over and over again of quitting, then starting again on a Monday or the beginning of the month, and then starting over again. So it's really our thoughts and what we've been led to believe about how we should lose weight, which was low fat and moving more.
Very true. So is it then true to say it's harder to lose weight as we age?
It is harder to lose weight as we age because of we don't have, especially women over 40 and 50, we don't have as much estrogen and progesterone in our bodies. And so when our estrogen is low, we can develop that muffin top, more fat around the middle. Once I turned 40, I had been thin from the waist up and been heavier, from the hips down, but I had never had a stomach or a muffin top. And I was horrified because I couldn't get rid of it. And that's the problem most people have. And then the other thing that happens as we get older is the other hormones that we have, the leptin, which tells us how we, helps us notice that we're full, and the ghrelin, which tells us when we're hungry, they don't work as well because of lower estrogen. And so then we tend to get hungrier and gain more weight, which can lead to the insulin resistance, diabetes, and other health conditions.
So tell me how that comes into play with our hormones and menopause.
Right. So the estrogen is lower, so is the progesterone. So we're hungrier because our other hormones aren't working as well, and we're eating more, and we think it's just all due to the hormones. That's not the only thing. We're also, because we've gained weight, we may have more joint problems. We're not moving as much. And, it's a whole cycle that we get into. And that can cause arthritis and things like that. And so what we can do about that is we can regulate other hormones in our body, like insulin. So insulin is a fat storage hormone, and insulin goes up anytime we eat anything. Goes up less with when we eat fat, which is surprising. We've all been taught to eat low fat. So when we're taught to eat, healthy fats, it's like, no, everything has to be low fat. But if insulin is like the cruise director for the food that goes in your body, it's telling it where to go. It's telling it whether to be used by the cells for different functions, or it's telling it to get stored, the sugar. So everything that we eat gets broken down into sugar. Insulin helps the sugar get into the cells or stores it as fat. So it can store it as fat, close by in the little smaller freezer that we have instead of um, the refrigerator, or it can go in the deep freezer in the basement, which is harder to gain access to, right?
Mhm.
So, and though, so even if we eat healthy, so-called healthy foods, and we're not eating as much, or we're eating 6 small meals a day, we still can't use our own body fat for fuel. We're still burning sugar all the time because we have so much of it. Because if we're always eating all throughout the day, then we're just burning sugar. We can't get to that fat.
So how does that play into the metabolic syndrome?
Right. So metabolic syndrome is when your insulin levels are always high. So when your insulin levels are always high, then you can't burn your body fat. So that is a problem because then you're more likely to develop diabetes, high blood pressure, hyperlipidemia, or high cholesterol. All those three things, and that's a lot of it is because of weight gain.
So how does one determine whether they do have metabolic syndrome? Is there a certain test, or they look at all those predictors, like you mentioned, the cholesterol levels and some of the other indicators?
Well, it's mainly if you're overweight or obese, if you have high blood pressure, if you have high cholesterol, if you have diabetes, pretty much a shoo-in that you have metabolic syndrome.
Okay. So in that case, Wendy, no, you cannot move enough daily, weekly, monthly, yearly to break down and get rid of that fat,
Right,
being without having that metabolic syndrome. No
right,
matter how much you work out.
right. And that's the thing is it's not calories in, calories out. You have to have a different kind of mentality. You have to be able to lower your insulin levels. So, and to do that, you have to eat less often.
Okay.
And
Okay.
you can still move, you can still exercise, but doing high intensity exercise is not going to help you lose the weight.
So let's talk about intermittent fasting. Okay.
Okay.
So when you're talking about even maybe more of a schedule or not necessarily depriving, but more of a timed eating regimen. What are
Right.
your thoughts on that?
I personally do it every day. That's how I lost my weight as well, is by using intermittent fasting, because otherwise, what happens is if we let our bodies rest in between meals. So I'll go back. We all fast from the time that we finish eating at night to the first time we eat during the day. That's that's why we call it breakfast. We break our fast.
Mhm.
So we're all fasting, a certain amount of time, 8 hours or so, however long that is. What intermittent fasting is just making that a little bit longer. Is maybe you don't eat until 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning. Last meal you have is 6 or 7 at night, and you don't eat till 10 or 11 or 12 in the morning. That's 16 to 18-hour fast. What that allows is it allows your insulin levels to go down and for your body to use its own fat for fuel. So instead of saying you're skipping breakfast, you're having a meal. Your body is feasting on the stored fat. So a lot of people think that's gross, but that's how you can think of it. Is your fat storage unit is going down when you're fasting.
So let's talk about the biofeedback. how does that play into weight loss? Do we tap into it? Are we not tapping into it enough to get the results that we're looking for?
That's a great question. So, for weight loss to occur, we do have to, it's not just about calories in, calories out, but we do have to eat less. We have to eat less of the foods that are going to raise our insulin levels and keep our body being sugar burners. So we do have to eat less sugar. We do have to eat less breads and less pastas, but we don't have to eliminate anything. We can just eat those in smaller amounts. So you don't have to totally eliminate breads, pastas, sugar, but try to eat foods that are, you have protein, you have your healthy fat, lots of vegetables. Should be the three main things: some whole grains and fruit, and then, a couple times a week, the pasta, bread, and sugar. So it's not that you're eliminating anything, but you're having it less often. And what that does is it reduces your hunger and it reduces your desire to overeat. So if we can, that's what diets don't do. It doesn't reduce your desire because you're just thinking about it all the time. So if you eat,
Almost consumed.
right, you're almost, yeah, totally consumed with, when can I have that again? I can't wait to get off this diet so that I can go back to eating the way I used to. That's the diet mentality. And we can't do that. So we have to learn to eat foods that we love in, those smaller amounts and maybe less often, and eating a couple of times a day, but eating the same amount of food that you would eat 3 meals a day. So you're not eating necessarily less food, you're changing the foods that you eat.
Got it. Got it. What was your biggest challenge when you lost your weight?
Getting over the diet mentality. Because, food is everywhere in our society. So, I mean, after a couple of months of doing well with the intermittent fasting, I lost 12 pounds the first month, which is, I had never been able to do before. And then I steadily lost after that because I made a plan. Making a plan is what helps you stick to a plan. Diets don't work if we don't have a plan and if we don't follow a plan every day. And it's not, you're not counting calories, fat grams, points. You're just writing down what you eat. And if you write it down ahead of time, then you don't have to write it down later. So planning in advance is the other kind of secret to losing weight.
Excellent. Thank you for that tip. I think that you're exactly right on that. I find that for myself, if I write down in my phone, in my notes, okay, for the week, what I plan to have for breakfast, for lunch, and dinner, it's so much easier as the days come along. I don't have to think about it. I don't have it already is there. I know what it is, and I feel some sort of comfort that, it's good for me, it's healthy, and it's easy.
Right. And that's how you can make it easier for yourself. That's how you can not think about food 24/7.
What what would you consider a negative food relationship or obsession? Can you give us some examples?
Right. If you think that you're a carb or sugar addict, that, how is that helpful? How do you feel when you think that you're a carb or sugar addict? You feel like you're never going to be able to fix the problem, right? You feel
Mhm.
kind of defeated. So why bother trying? So that is the mentality piece of it that coaching helps with, because we all have that little ticker tape of thoughts running across our brains and that we don't even realize that we're having about food, about what we deserve, about trying to feel better by eating food, food that's not healthy for us. Does it really make us feel better? Maybe temporarily, but then it makes us feel worse. Then it makes us feel bloated, tired, foggy brained, all those things.
So then what are your thoughts about those individuals? And I may fall in that category that does the calorie counting or does the weighing of the food and the meal planning. Is that not a healthy habit? Is that something that's evaluated on an individual basis in terms of how to determine their success with weight loss?
No, those are great healthy habits. Those are what's going to keep you successful in the future.
But not required.
No, you don't ever have to do anything you don't want to do because it has to work for you. Not
Exactly.
everybody follows the exact plan I use. We're all individuals. And that's what I help with, is individualizing your personal um, beliefs about food, your habits, your lifestyle, and your health, and what you like to eat.
So what is the most effective strategy for weight loss for women over 50?
I think it's using intermittent fasting and eating, less sugar and breads and pastas. That and
So,
writing things down. Those are the three things.
okay, good, good. What's an appropriate fasting window, or excuse me, feeding window when we eat? What would you suggest or recommend for someone who's just starting with the
Yeah,
process of intermittent
a great,
fasting?
great question. So I would recommend that your last meal is 6 or 7 at night, no snacking at night. And then in the morning, if you're not normally a breakfast eater, and there's a lot of people that are not, then you go until you notice that you're getting hungry. And let's say that maybe 10 o'clock the first day, and then you can eat at 10, and then just maybe a smaller meal. And then you can eat 3 meals a day if you want to, but it's better to eat two, but not everybody wants to do that. So you can slowly lengthen the eating window, shorten the eating window,
Got it. Got it.
lengthen the
I
time
will.
that you fast and shorten the eating window.
What is your intermittent fasting window right now, or what is your time eating?
I fast from 6 o'clock at night until noon the next day. So I have like an 18-hour window. And then occasionally I'll do a 24-hour fast. If I notice my weight is creeping up a little bit, during the winter storm,
Right.
it was a little bit harder to eat on plan. And so, that's what I did. And the weight came right off.
Did you start with that same type of eating window, or
Yeah.
did you? Okay.
Yeah. I
Was it
went, it was not easy because I wasn't off of sugar, yet. And so the first 2 weeks, if you had been eating a lot of sugar and then you all of a sudden stop, the first 2 weeks you're feeling you got a little headache, you're getting a little bit hungrier, and you're tired. But you don't have to be super hungry, because if you're going to eat more fat. If you eat more fat and more vegetables, that's going to keep you feeling full longer.
got it? Now, tell us, Wendy, what's your regular fitness routine? How
Hmm.
do you stay in shape?
Well, I use fitness for my body, to help my emotions, and for my mind, to help manage my mind. I love walking. I walk every day. I do the treadmill. I listen to Joyce Meyer on the TV, her show, and I tape them. And then I do some yoga. I also do strength training 2 times a week. And I do like longer walks on the weekends and Thursdays.
Excellent. Wonderful. Thank you, Wendy. On that note, I want to really, really tell you we appreciate your time today and the valuable information you shared with us. And we'll definitely be sharing Wendy's contact information for everyone. Thank you guys for joining us today at the Fit Addicts.
Thanks for having me.